Welcome everyone to today's class. Last week we handled context API and I gave a take-home assessment, which I believe that everybody tried their hands on. Uh, uh, so for today, we'll be working on using Redux and Redux Toolkit. So we'll be working on using Redux Toolkit to manage state globally. So like you already know, Redux is a state management uh, utility, right? It's used for managing states globally. So Redux is like an advanced version of context API, right? So we just go ahead and modify what we did last week, but this time we will just use Redux. So we will abandon context and use Redux to function the same application that we built last week. So this is what we had. We had our application setup done and styling done. So we don't need to go through the whole rigorous process of recreating this whole UI again, right? We can just utilize the same user interface and just and change the functionality, the code and the functionalities, right? So for this to happen, we need to install install Redux. So we'll say npm install at Redux js slash toolkit on React Redux. Okay, let's go ahead and install this to take a few seconds. All right, we're done. So with this installed now, we can utilize Redux in our application, right? So let's go ahead and make changes to what we have. So like we always do, when you have, if you're not following or you don't understand what's happening, you just raise your hand and ask your question, and I'll give you the mic, and then you can ask your question and we can move forward. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on this. So we had this folder called auth, where we had our auth context and login and sign up, right? So for today, I'm going to create a new folder and call it features. Okay, so I'm going to be creating a folder which I will call features. Then within this folder, I want to create my store. And then I want to also create my slice. If there's any way you get lost, just let me know. Is that clear? Are we together? I feel like the class is cold today. Why are you guys not responding? All right. Okay, let's make it a little bit active. Huh? When I ask like that, I like response. You know how I like the class to be. All right. So we have hot slice and we have our store, right? So first step we want to take is create. So let's actually start by adding our providers and modifying our um, app.js, right? So for app.js now, we are going to utilize, we are not going to be using auth context and auth provider anymore. We are going to be using provider that is provided by um, Redux, right? Or rather, not here. Let's do that in the main. Okay, so I'm going to add provider from Redux. And then for provider, we are going to be providing from the store. So like the name implies, store is like holding all our states, right? So I'm going to be providing from the store. We will have to import the store when we create the store. But basically, this is the basic setup for utilizing Redux store provider, right? So now that we have the provider and the store initiated here, we can now go ahead to our app.js and modify our code. So for here, we're not going to utilize this anymore. So we can take it out. All right. So let's const. We're going to be using dispatch. So dispatch is a property that comes with React uh, Redux, right? So dispatch, we now say use dispatch imported from Redux, from React Redux, right? Then we want to get our user. So for this now, we are not going to use states because we are handling our state directly from our store, right? So we are going to say user, and we want to get user using use selector. Use selector too is a property of React Redux. So we have our states. So we want to take out from our states, we want to get the user. So say state dot auth, because the state where we are getting this user from is from the authentication state, right? So we now say dot user. Now this might confuse you a little now, but it will be clear when we actually create the slices that are supposed to handle this, right? So can I say use effect? And if you remember, we're using use effect to check the changes that were happening, the odd changes. So we're using use effect to check using a listener to check when the user was logged in and when the user is not logged in, right? So we're just going to dispatch. We're also going to be dispatching the same action, but this time it will be, yeah, it's the same listing what states. So Udo, you say it's confusing already. People say that I should be starting from the head to teach you now. That it's clearer that way. Huh? Where are you confused? Okay, do you know what? Udo, just follow the class. Yeah, just follow me as I am going step by step. I promise you will understand what's happening when things start coming together. Okay. Now this dispatch. Yeah, this dispatch is just a property that it's it's a function that we use to dispatch actions that are being created by our um, reducers, right? So inside this hot slice, we are going to create reducers and functions and API calls that we will use that will trigger from here. Like this listing hot state now, we'll be dispatching this, but this listing hot state will be created inside our hot slice. So let's just be patient and see how things come up. All right. Um, so back to our app.js. So for this now, we are going to modify this routing process because we are no more using this auth provider, right, that we created last time. So what we are going to be doing now is on the part that has to do with sign up, we'll just say for sign up, if user, that's if user is available, right? You should navigate to dashboard. But if user is not available, it should just show sign up. This route should show the component that was meant to be displayed by this very route, right? Now for this too, we'll do the same thing, right? We'll say if user is available, we want to navigate again. Okay. Now, because we are not going to be using auth providers, we are no more going to be controlling our private routes here. We are going to control our private route within our component based on user availability, right? So for dashboard now, we are no more using private routes. I will just say if user just display dashboard, right? But if user is not available, navigate to login. All right, so this should be sign up on the login option. Okay, all right. So we have that done. And for the last part, definitely should be sign up. Okay. All right, we're good now. So since we are not using this private route again, it is safe for us to remove it, right? Because we have our code set up. We have our protection set up here now to ensure that if the only way we are seeing the dashboard is when a person is logged in. Okay, let me reduce this site so that we can have more room for code. All right. Okay. So with this now, we are technically done with our app.js, but we'll still need to do importations because there are a couple of things here that are not imported, like this listing us state now has not been created, so it is not imported here yet, right? So we'll go ahead and create the necessary things that we need. So first step, we are going to work on our hot slice. Am I too fast? Are we good? Can I continue? Or do you need me to go back to that screen and explain again? Please respond quickly. So yes, sir, I should go further or I should go back. Enoch. All right, okay. So So coming to our auth slice, we want to import what we are going to be using to create our slice, and then we are going to be importing um, something called create async talk, right? These are both utility functions from Redux toolkit to create a slice of the Redux state and handle asynchronous actions respectively. So let's say import create slice from Redux toolkit. And we also want to import create async tonk. Okay. All right. So these two are like utility functions that are provided by Redux toolkit, right? So this create slice now is what we are going to be using to initiate to create our slice, right? And this is what we are going to be using to handle our asynchronous actions. Now, if you want to liken this now to what we did in auth context, in auth, right? You see that for auth, we used our create context to initialize our auth context. So the concept is almost the same. It's the same actually, right? Because you are still importing utility functions and utilizing them, right? So in the case of Redux, these are our utility functions for Redux. Now, since we are using Firebase, of course, so we also want to import our utility functions that are provided by Firebase. So we say import create user with email and password. Then we want to in sign in with email and password. Yeah. Then sign out. Okay. All right. But there's still one more. Let me break this down. So we also want to monitor our out states. All right. So we have all we need there. So we also want to import our auth from Firebase. All right. Okay, so we can move on now to actually creating some functions to make API calls, right? So can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Obi now. Can you all hear me? Acknowledge if you can hear me. Please, let's be responding quickly. All right. So Obi now is possible is your network. Okay, so we want to create some functions to handle sign up, login, and log out, right? So first step, we're going to say export const sign up, right? And then for sign up, we want to create a sync tonk, and then we want to define the action, which is auth slash sign up. Then for that action, we want to say async, and we are passing in two values, email and password. We're passing two values, email and password. Then for those two values, we want some actions to be taken, right? We want to await, then create with email. And then for this, we want to pass our auth, our email, and our password. So if you can see this, not to drag you back, but did you npm install Redux or it's part of React? I installed it actually. So let me do you a solid and let me do you a solid and send the command into the text box. So you can actually research and all this, you can check out their documentations for better understanding, right? So be open to check their documentation. They have a very robust documentation for you, perusal. All right, so create user. So now we have our create user with email and password, right? And we have passed in, you see that it's about the same thing with what we handle, how we handled it when we were creating, when we were using context, right? So you see that for sign up, you see that we are doing our basic async email password await, and we are doing the same thing. The only difference now is that we are using an async tongue to create our action, which is this. So this is the action that we are handling with this. The action is auth sign up. And then we are having our async call. And then for that async call, we are calling this API and passing our values to this API, right? Now, if we want to handle our login, export const login. So we'll go through the same process, create async tongue. And then we want to define the action. Of course, the action is auth/login. So for your information, no two actions in a slice should be the same, right? We cannot have auth sign up here as an action, and then for the next API call, we are having auth sign up again for that action. You will have a very buggy code, and it will not even work for you, right? So for every API call inside your slice, it must have its own unique action. So say async, and for that, we are also passing email and password. Then we define our API call. So for this now, we want to make some actions with the result of this login API call, right? So I'll say const res equals await sign in with email and password. Then I want to pass my email, and password. All right. So with this now, we should have our API call. So we return res.user. So who is seeing the similarities between what we are doing and what we did when we were handling this process with context API? I need responses, please. Yeah, so Enoch, you can see, right? Or mute yourself. Let me hear from you. what do you notice? What's that unique trait that you've noticed so far? You seriously just go blind because I say you're mute. Trust me, no answer is wrong. Just go ahead, speak, or mute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. So the similarities I'm seeing is the fact that we're doing the sign up and login in another file outside outside the login and sign up GSS components themselves. And the fact that we are exporting those functions so that we can use them in each of the files, the login file and the sign
Models,
up file.
right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is that all you noticed?
Also the fact that we're still doing asynchronous and we're still passing, we're still like it's still like a component because I'm seeing the email and password and we're not passing it into the function. Mm.
Okay. All right. Who else noticed something? Udo, you are just laughing. Let me hear from you. What similarities have you noticed? You were in the last class. I know you are still trying to catch on, but you were at least in the last class, so you should have some insights to what we are doing. So what similarities have you noticed between what we are doing here now and what we did with Context API? Hello, Udo. Waiting for
Sir, I
you.
stand with where Enoch stands. It is the same thing he noticed that I noticed.
Okay. So it's the same thing of notice that you noticed. Hello, Faith. Let me hear from you. What have you noticed differently? What do you think?
Yeah,
What do you think? Yeah.
even though I've not really like practiced the what was taught in the last class, but
Okay.
what I remember though is that although in that like when we are using context API, this
Mm-hmm.
sign up and the login, they are more like a function. But what I'm saying here is that this one is like a function expression, like the function itself is the create async tongue, which is like I don't know, the function that is doing the asynchronous whatever, and the value is
It
what
says
is being like
asynchronous, whatever.
yeah, like the the awaiting and all of those things. And I think it's just like initializing the value to what sign up, the variable sign up and the variable login. Unlike previously, in the last class, you have to do like something like export const login is equals to async, put email and password a parameter, then do this how will I put it? But I think that's the only difference. The fact that the login and the sign up, yeah, they're not more like a function on their own, but they are more like a function expression where the create what is it called? That creates what is it again? I've forgotten. That function, that Redux function is the one that is kind of doing almost everything.
Okay. So yes, you are right. And the create async tongue is creating your actions. Or it's just handling your API call. It's handling the whole asynchronous process of your API call, right? So it's like the usher in this function, right? So we have a function where we have these are people that are attending this occasion, right? We have the auth and the email and the password who are attending this occasion. And for this occasion, they are supposed to sit down in the canopy where they call it create user with email and password, right? Now, what we are saying is the only people that should sit in this session of this event are people that are the people that their names are email and password, right? Now we're not saying async tongue based on this action, help us carry these people and sit them down in this row, in this section of our Owambe. What is that clear? Does it make more sense to you that way? Text box, guys. Let's be quick. You should come again, Enoch. Faith, but Faith, you understand, right? Okay. So Enoch, I was using an example. Yeah, you want to say something?
Sorry. I don't really understand the create async talk. Like, I don't really understand it.
Okay. Just pay attention. Let me go over it again. All right. So create. Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, so this create async talk is a utility function. You see, just like when you are using Tailwind, right? And you hear Tailwind uses utility classes, right? So they are like predefined functions that are supposed to assist you with handling your asynchronous calls. Now, let's look at this sign up function as an event that we want to attend. And we have two attendees that we want to place in a canopy called create user with email and password, right? Now, for this canopy, we want to have our auth. So this auth now should be like probably the kind of refreshment we want to have there, right? Since they are special guests, we want to give them auth as refreshment. So it will also be in that canopy. Now, email is the attendee, and password is also an attendee, right? Now, in this scenario, we are now saying it has to be email and password. If it's not email and password, they cannot sit in this row, in this canopy, right? So now we are saying async talk is the usher. So we are saying async talk assist us based on this action that we've defined. Take email and password and keep them in this canopy, and then trigger the event to start. You understand now? Yeah, so you can also liken that explanation to the login, right? But now for login, why are we actually checking for the response? We can actually check for the response here, right? But for the purpose of the application that we are building, we don't have any need for the response on sign up. But we have need for response on login because we now want to see what the user information looks like. And then we want to utilize that user information to handle our changes based off which screen to display and when somebody should be able to view the dashboard, right? So in that scenario, we are now defining our response and then getting the user information from the response and returning it. Is that clear?
So basically it's just like putting create a sync talk. We could have just done normally with a sync, right? But because we're using Redux.
Good, because you're using Redux. Good. So
All
Redux
right.
now, yes. And now for you to be able to handle your state globally and everything, this is necessary. Because when this create async talk now, we'll be communicating with other components of Redux to make all your API calls, state management, routing, and everything work together as one. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's go ahead and handle our logouts, right? So yeah, so logout is, as you can see, it's quite straightforward too. We have our logout, create async talk, and then we define our action. Like I said, these actions should not be the same. So you see that this is auth logout, right? And we have our async, and we ain't passing anything here. All we are doing is trigger our sign out using the auth, right? Okay, so we can just speed up and look at let's look at checking our state changes, right? So if you remember in the app.js, we define a listing listing all states, right? Now we are going to define that listing all states in our Redux slice. So let's say export listing all state. And then we want to also use create async thunk. And then for this, we want to define the action as odd slash listing all state, and async right, comma, then we want to dispatch patch. All right, so for this, we now define our arrow function. Okay. Then we can now have our odds. All right, so we now have our, hold on, export, why is export? Okay, export const. Yeah, thank you. All right, so odds, yeah, on odd state change, we are now passing our odds, and then we are now checking our next observer, right? So for the observer, we're saying user, we want to check for user. And if user is available, we want to dispatch login, right? And then add the user there. And then else, we want to dispatch logout. Okay, so for this, we are not going to actually use login and logout. We are going to be dispatching another action, which I will define in a bit. Set user. We are going to be setting user, and then for this, we are going to be clear user. Okay. All right, that's fine. So for set user, we are going to pass user, and then if we are setting user, we want to also save it to local storage. So we'll say local storage dot set item. Item will be user. And then item will be JSON. Dot stringify user. All right. Then for this we dispatch, and then after clearing, we also remove local storage or remove item user. All right. So we have our listener created now. So if we come back to our app.jsx, we can now import the listener here. Because we still want to save to local storage now. Do you have another storage you want us to use, Obina? Okay, so this hot states, this one, this is what you want, right? This is what you want me to explain. It's provided by Firebase, right? It's also a utility function provided by Firebase. What on hot state change does, it helps you monitor the changes in your authentication. So it helps you to know when you have been authenticated. That is when you are logged in and when you are not logged in. So now using it now, we can use it to monitor our application and decide what to do at a particular time, which is why we are using it in app.js here. We are saying we want to dispatch this listen auth, right? We want to be dispatching this function. So why we are dispatching this function? Because we want to be listening to know when this user is available and when this user is not available. So we want to know when we are logged in and when we are not logged in. All right. Okay. Then yeah, for local storage, it's just normal. We want to save our stuff to local storage because at least we are saving it to local storage so we can get that user from local storage and utilize the information, right? So it's nothing serious. It's the same. We have been using it since. So it's like basic stuff. Should not be I should not be expecting that kind of question. Somebody asked me if they are going to do the page 2 and 3 of their sign-up process. And I've not gotten over that for a while now. Okay. Const hot slice. So this is where we are now creating our slice, right? So for this slice, we are calling it hot slice. And to create this slice, we are going to utilize our create slice, which we imported already up, right? And then for create slice, we are going to define this and then, all right, so this is our slice. Our slice has been created. No, we are about to do that, Faith, so just pay attention, okay? So for the odds, for the slice must have a name. For name, I will be using odds as the name of my slice. Now, secondly, the slice must have initial state. Because like you know, for every state function, there's always an initial state, right? Good. So for our initial state, we want to have user. And for user, we want to set initially, we don't have any user, right? Then we want to say status. And we want to define our status as idle. And then we want to have error state. Then for error state, we want to null initially. Okay, so now we have defined our initial state. We want to move forward and define our reducers. So for reducers, I'm sure that you might get confused when you see reducers now, but it's not something you should be confused about. Reducers are functions defined within a slice to handle asynchronous state updates. So all we are using reducers to do is, okay, we want to handle the updates, those updates of our asynchronous function, right? We want to use our reducers to handle those updates. These functions describe how the state should change in response to the specific actions. So we have actions, we have state, right? And we want to define how this state should change according to the action that is being taken. Are we good? So based on okay, so based on this now, we cannot decide, okay, let's create a set user and a clear user reducer, right? So let's say set user, then we want to say for this set user, let's take into consideration the state of our application. And then we want to also take into consideration the action that is being taken, right? Then arrow function. And then we now want to say state dot user should be equals to the action dot payload. So when we are setting user now, we're only saying that when there's user available, right? That is when the action to set user is done. We want to take the payload that is gotten from that action, and then we want to save it to the state of user. You say what was wrong when we use context? I don't understand your question, Enoch. Unmute yourself, ask the question, let me hear.
Like, I'm trying to understand why we are not using Redux when context worked perfectly for us, and it was very understandable.
Yes, this is also very understandable, but you are not letting fear allow you to understand what's happening. It's very straightforward code and reusable too, because once you understand the concept of creating one slice, how the reducers work, why you have an initial state, it is just all you need to do is utilize this in other scenarios. Say maybe you have other actions that you want to take. Why we are using Redux is because Redux gives you a more broader global scope of handling your of managing your states, right? So if you remember when we're using context, we're saying something like mostly used for authentication, right? So there's a high chance that there are limitations that you might not be able to manage a very large code base using context, right? Context API. But with Redux, Redux gives you the opportunity to manage all your states, like everything through your alt slice and your store and your providers, right? So it's like giving you a broader scope of global state management. Redux is most used right now, especially for scalable applications, right? So if you say you want to stick to context API and not explore what Redux has to offer, then you understand you are limiting yourself to a lot. Of course, Redux over context API anytime. Yeah. So so we now have our set user reducer, right? And like I said, yeah. Invest your mind into it. I'm trying my best, so I'm very sure you understand. Okay. So for this, we are saying action, when this action is taken, we want the result of this action, which is the payload, which is the result of this action. We want to save that result to user. So all the information here should be saved to this user information so that we can utilize it. It's like updating this user information. So this state dot user is accessing this information. This is the initial state of user. So anywhere you see me write state dot user, I'm just saying, okay, for this user state, I want anything on this side to be assigned or to be updated to update this user information. So I'm updating this user information in the state with this payload. Yeah, exactly. So now, if we go to, if I say clear user, and then we are also going to be, yes, state, of course. But because we don't want to pass anything, we want to remove everything from the user information, from the user state. So we are saying for this user state, just clear everything inside and let it be null. Okay, like is that straightforward? Are we good? Are we following? All right, good. So now we can now go ahead and write our extra reducers. This one, our reducers cause problem. I hope extra reducers will not. Hello, can you guys hear me? Can we go on? Are we scared? You don't have to be scared. Just relax your mind and listen attentively. All right, so we have our extra reducer and arrow function, and then we can now define our reducers. First, we define our builder. So for this builder, we want to say, we want to add case for sign up. Dot pending. And then for sign up dot pending, we want to check states. And then we want to say arrow function. And we want to set state. State dot status to loading. Are we together? Are we together? So first, let me draw back a little so that we don't get lost, right? So for extra reducers, right? It might be a little bit confusing too, but for extra reducers, it's also like we use these extra reducers to handle actions that are defined outside of the slice, right? So these are the actions that are defined outside our slice. You see that this is where our slice is. These actions are defined outside our slice. Now we want to manage all these actions. So in essence, what we are going to now do is we are going to say, okay, for this sign up, we want to know when this sign up is pending. So we have an asynchronous function. In the process of asynchronous function, there is a pending state when the API call has not been successful. So it has dialed the number, it is ringing, right? But it has not accepted. Then we now have a case. We now have another case for when the call is now accepted, right? Let's say, so now we have the same sign up, but we now have fulfilled. So for this now, we are now checking, okay, for the second case, we want to know when this action has been fulfilled, when the call has been picked by the API, right? And has delivered us data. And now, if it has delivered us data, we want to also do the same thing of set the new data that has been delivered to user. So we are also saying set the data based on the action dot payload. Okay. All right. So now we are saving our data to payload, right? But we should have our action here. All right, because we have action. Okay. All right. So request status fulfilled, request ID string, arguments void, right? So we now have our action.payload. So we're saying on fulfillment of this API call, this sign up action, we want to change our status to succeeded instead of loading, right? We want to change our status to succeeded. They want to also change our update our user information with the new information that has been gotten from the action of payload. Are we good? Can I continue? Can I continue? All right. So for the next case, we have rejected case, right? So now for this rejected scenario, we are now saying, okay, if we tried this API call and it was pending, and then it skipped the stage of pending and it wasn't fulfilled, right? Maybe there was a bad request or whatever error code is attached to it. It was now, it did not fulfill. So that means we have an error message. Now we want to catch that rejected state and say, okay, for the failed state, this rejected state is like for the failed state. We want to now change our status to failed. And then for this failed state, we want to set error. So for that error message that we have, this error that we defined in our initial state, we want to now say, check the action, check the error in that action, and then we want to display the message inside state.error. Okay. Now with these three extra reducers, we can properly monitor our sign up action. Now we are going to do the same thing for our for our sign for our login. So let's just copy this to avoid writing too many code. So let's say all right, so sign up. Login. So for login, we are just going to come and pick our login and then use it and replace it here. So we want to check the pending state for login, the fulfilled state for login, and rejected state for login, right? So on login fulfillment, we want to do the same thing of set state to user, right? Okay. So for this, ideally, we don't necessarily need to set this because we are not actually using this information on sign up, right? We can comment this out. So we have this set up for sign in. Yeah, for login. Yeah. Okay. So we now want to have our extra reducer for logouts, right? So 1, 2, 3, and then we have logouts. Okay. We're actually going to create it for all of them. So for logouts, what we are trying to do in logout is so for logout we just want to set, we are not passing any actions to logout. So we are just giving it the states, and then we want to remove everything that is inside user. on logout. Are we good? So for logout, we don't really need this state. All we want to monitor is our fulfilled state for logout and remove the action. So we're just saying for logout, once this is fulfilled, it should be able to remove everything. We're not making any API call here. We're just, logout should just empty the user information. Then we want to also have our listener, right? Of course, we want to have our listener. So we can say for listener, yeah, all we need for our listener is the case for fulfilled. So I'll remove this and rejected. So for fulfilled, all we are doing is action the payload. I don't even need to check success. All right, we're good. We're now good to go. So from this now, you see that all I did here now is create. We're just managing the states of our API calls. Nothing is not like rocket science. It's just normal stuff. We're just managing the state. We're just checking, is it fulfilled? Is it pending or is it rejected? Right? And at each stage of that API, that asynchronous call, we have different actions we are trying to take. Right? Especially, let's use this sign-in, this login, for example. On different stages, on the first stage, we want to just set our status to load it. On the second stage, we want to handle adding our new data that we have gotten based on fulfillment of our API call to the states, to the user state, right? And then on the third case, we are not saying, okay, if those two other stages did not yield us any fruit, we want to tell the user that this API call has failed. And then we pass an error and display that error, right? Now, our next step will be to export our actions right? So let me reduce the spacing here. It's quite a lot. All right. So I'll now say export const. So it's here already. Okay. So I'll now say export our set user and our clear user action, right? That we defined in our reducer. Set user, clear user. Then I will also export our Redux slice. Export default auth slice dot reducer. All right. So we have our auth slice exported now. You can see the name here, auth, that we defined it to be. So we can now go to our store and define and initialize our store and save all these actions that we are making here inside our store. So we come to the store and then we can now say for store, we want to first, initially want to configure our store. So we say import configure store from Redux toolkit, right? And then we want to import that our reducer. So we say import auth. So we import auth slice from auth slice, right? And then we now say we can still call this reducer if we want. Then we can now say export const dot store, right? And I want to say create store. So we are creating our store, and for creating our store, we are now saving reducer. Good. So all right. So I'm now saying for this auth, this is our auth reducer now, and we are defining it based on our auth slice, right? So you see that I'm passing our auth slice to the auth reducer, and then you can see that everything is populated there. We have our user state, our status, and our error, right? Now, if we go back to our main.js, we can now import our store here. The store we just created, right? And we can see our auth. So this is the name of our store. These are the states available inside our store. Okay, so let's go to app.jsx, and okay, we've imported this. All right. All right, and use selector should be grabbing. Okay, good. So we are good to go. Okay, anybody clear with what we have done so far? I'm seeing so much armor in the text box, and no be small matter. Let me hear from you guys. Where are you lost? What can I do to salvage you? Just raise your hand. I actually want to be able to speak. So raise your hand and we'll hear from you. I'm still waiting. Come on, guys. We can't be so scared. Faith, go ahead. Unmute your mic.
I'm just wondering, let's say it's an e-commerce website. Now you've done this login, sign up, log out. Now, what about if you want to do something like those carts, like the
Good
yeah.
question. Good
So
question.
how will those things come in? Will they still come in like the way you are declaring?
Yes. So let
Okay.
me give you a little insight to what happens in that scenario. So you see that we have our hot slice. We can have as many slices as possible. We can have cat slice, right? To manage your cat in that e-commerce site, right? And then within this cat slice, you will define all your, depending if you are using an API, right? You define all your API calls, handle your actions, and that is add to cart, remove from cart. Like I said, create, read, update, delete. Those are the main functions available to us on the DOM. So if you just have that mindset that all you are doing on the DOM is create, read, update, and delete. So based off that now, in a cart, what you are going to be doing, let's assume you want to add to cart. You will be adding to cart, removing from cart, right? Like that's adding is creation, viewing in the cart is read, remove is delete, right? Then maybe you want to modify your cart, that is update, right? So you will still make all your API calls with regards to the particular type of actions that you want to make. And then you will still define your initial state. Let's assume this is cart. You will definitely have a cart state that will be empty. And then when you make API calls or when you add to cart, you want to change the value of your cart, right? That is where your extra reducers come in, your reducers come in, or your extra reducers come in. And you can, on fulfillment of your actions, you can change the state of your cart. Now, based off this now, after creating your cart and all this stuff now, right? You've done all these things. You can now come to your store. And the same way this is defined here, you can also come and add your cart state. Based on your cart slice, you can now say cart, import your cart slice. And now you have a state that manages your cart completely. Now let's assume you want to also have a state that manages payout. You can define a whole your payout slice and have another action, have another slide. So you see why Redux is preferable, because you are handling everything with Redux. You are handling the whole of your application states using Redux. Your actions in the whole website, your everything is being managed by Redux Store. Exactly. So it's like having a state manager, right? That helps you with everything state on your application. For this class, we are just handling auth slides, so we'll just focus on authentication. All right. Is that clear? Faith, does that make sense? Thank you for that question. I really appreciate that question.
Yeah. So, for example, now the place where you created this, since like that, the add to cart, you can like edit quantity, you can like delete the cart or delete a product from the cart and stuff like that. So all of those things, they are going to come in this like in the reducer, right? You're going to like declare those things, like allow you created like this set user. Now you create like a function that will say add product to cart and stuff like that, have you?
So if you have a
And then you are
function
going
that
to
says,
do
if you have a function that says add to cart, that function, you can monitor that function using your extra reducer. That is if you are adding to cart based on an API call. But if you're not adding to cart based on an API call, you can actually use your reducer to manage that state and dispatch each of the actions. So you can have like add to cart reducer, right? And for this add to cart reducer, you can have your state. You can have your state and action, right? And handle the whole adding to cart process inside here, right? So you can handle your whole adding to cart process inside this add to cart reducer. And for this add to cart reducer now, you will be updating the cart state. So let's say we have cart state here as null. Your main objective, after doing any activity you want to do within this add to cart, your main activity will be, so you can see your main activity will be state. Okay, so in this scenario now, you see we have cart state, right? So for this very line of code now, we are saying for the state called cart, you want to push this new payload that we just created into the state. Then if you are using API calls now, you cannot use this to monitor your API calls, because now you are already handling that adding to carts within your API function call. So all you are doing is you are now monitoring and saying, okay, once this adding to cart is successful, I want to update the cart state. Do you understand? I want to update the cart state with my payload. Is it clear? Does it make sense?
yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So like I said, this software thing, you have to write code to know code, right? Now, these are basics that I'm giving to you. These are like tools. I'm giving you like the tools to do what you need to do. When you have the basic understanding of the concept, how things are done, it is easy for you to it is easy for you to think through a particular process and define your own structure and have your own structure based on the general structure or syntax that a particular stuff has, right? You can now say, okay, based on what me I want to do, and I understand that, okay, I can use reducers to achieve this. I want to structure my reducers in this way, right? That way now you can handle any kind of action that you want to handle based on your understanding of how reducers work and how extra reducers work. Okay, so let's speed up. So we have our hot slice done. We have our store done. We have implemented our store in our main. And then for app.jsx, we have our listener available and we use selector to get our user from the store. So you see that now we are not using use state here to get our user or save our user anymore. All we are doing now is we want the states that Redux is giving. Any state that's available in Redux, give it to me. That's what this line of code is saying. Are we together? Comments, please. Are we together? All right. Okay. So we can go ahead now and handle some other aspects of what we are trying to achieve. So let's go to our sign up page, right? And move quickly. All right. So sign up. Good. So for sign up, if you notice that we're using use context, right? And we're getting our sign up function from use context, right? In this scenario now, there are going to be some changes that will be made. First, we're going to, I'm going to remove this first, and then I'm going to remove error. Okay. So what we're going to do now is import our dispatch. So let's say const dispatch equals to use dispatch. All right. So this now is part of Redux. This dispatch is part of Redux. Use dispatch. It's also a utility function from Redux, right? Now, for this, we are now going to also get our auth status and our auth error, right? So if you remember, inside here, we have our auth status. We have our auth status, right? Which is this, right? And our error states, right? So we have our auth state and we have our error state. So now for this, now we want to get these two states inside our sign up screen. So we are going to say const, just the way we got user when we're in the app.js, right? We are going to do the same thing to get our new state. So let's say auth state is equals to use selector. So use selector is also a utility function from Redux. So use selector, and then we say from state, we want to get the state dot auth dot status. Okay. All right. Then we want to, for the next step, we want to get auth error, and we want to take it from error. Okay, so if you notice now, even for our auth states now and our error states, we are not doing a typical use state for these ones. We are actually getting our information from Redux, right? Faith, you can drop your hand, or do you want to speak?
Yeah.
You want to speak?
Yes. I'm just wondering, like, what would be the value of that state itself, like the state you are passing as a parameter?
This state, right? So this state is the initial state that we have defined inside this initial state. So anywhere I'm using state, this is the initial, it will give me, without adding anything to it or passing any information to it, I should get user null, status idle, and error null.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, so we have our auth state and our auth error, right? We can now go ahead and modify our handle submit. So for handle submit, what we are trying to do here is just dispatch actions, right? So for handle submit, you see that in this handle submit, we had await, sign up, and we passed our email and password, right? In the new handle submit that we are going to have, we are going to now, let's import sign up. So we have imported sign up from our Redux, right? Now we're going to say, for this sign up, we want to dispatch this sign up using Redux. So we'll use this dispatch function, right? And for this dispatch function, we are passing sign up as the action that we want to take, right? And then for this sign up action, we want to now pass the payload of email and password to the sign up action. So we have our dispatch, we have our sign up, and then we have our arguments, right? Which is email and password, right? And it is using an await function. Now, based on this, if we, like we already know, if this is successful, we should navigate to our login screen and give an alert of account created successful, right? Good. So now for error message, because we are not using a normal state anymore, we can now modify our error message line and say, we want to check our status. So auth status equals to failed. So if auth status is equals to failed, right? And so we should display this error message if auth status is equals to failed. Then I'll come and take the error message and display my error message. Okay. So now you see that this error message, now I got it from our Redux. Now this this state, I'm getting this state from Redux too. So I'm just saying for this auth state, based on our Redux, right? Based on this Redux, I'm just saying if it is failed, if the status, that means it's rejected and it's failed, I want to display the error message that I have set here to error. Good. So with that now, we have our error message setup done. And then we can also set up our loading state for button, right? So I can say, so for button, let's say if auth states is not equals to fulfilled. I want to display loading. All right. So it's fulfilled the actual result if it's not succeeded. All right. Okay, let's see how this works. So let's see, we have our sign up page. So our sign up page is displaying fine. So let me, hold on, let me delete. All right, so let's say David, and then, then we create. Good, so we have account created successfully. So if I click on OK, it should take us to, so right now it is taking us to our dashboard, which is wrong. So let's fix that. So sign up should take us to login. Who is doing that? Okay, so all right, so let's see. Let's move forward. So for sign up, we should not be, okay, let me see what our route looks like. All right. Okay, hold on, guys. Let me go through our route and be sure that everything is fine. Okay. That's good. Hold on, guys. Give me a sec. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. All right, let's go back to our sign up and continue. So we are supposed to navigate to login and it did not navigate. Okay, so we have a bug. Let's just fix our code so that we don't experience this bug. Let's handle our sign up. Okay. All right. Let's go. So let's go ahead and utilize our login so that we can have a smooth flow of things, right? So for login, we'll be doing the same thing. We'll be taking out some we'll take out use context and utilize our Redux state, right? So we'll bring in, since we are using these two states, we are going to bring them in here. All right. Use selector. Okay. Good. All right, we're good to go. So based on this now, what we are going to be doing here is dispatch our login. We're going to be dispatching our login flow. All right. Then let's import login from features. Okay. So we have our login and dispatch done. So we don't have dispatch installed. Const dispatch equals use dispatch. All right. Okay. So we have our dispatch done now. So dispatch and dashboard. So we'll do the same thing for error message, right? And we can just go over here and take our error message and bring it in. To avoid wasting time. All right, okay. Okay, so I think we have our login done. Let's handle our dashboard. So we'll go to dashboard and for dashboard, like, it's still dispatching. We are no more doing things the old ways. So for dashboard, we are going to take out this, and then we are going to const dispatch equals to use dispatch. All right. And then we're going to const logout use selector, and then we'll say states. We'll say states and states dot auth, of course, dot user. Okay. So for this now, all we are going to do is dispatch this logout from, we'll dispatch logout from our reducer. Okay, are we good? With this now, we don't even need to do much. We already, so apparently this is not what I'm calling here as user. Pardon me. We are getting user, not logout. Logout should be imported from features. Okay. All right. Good. So with this now, we have our user states from use selector, that's from the Redux. So we can still display our email like we did with context API, right? And we can also handle logout. So let's go ahead and visualize our application. So our initials should be all right. So let me delete what we have here. And then we can go ahead and test our application again. So David, then yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Okay, so I noticed something. So for our loading state on sign up, it should be the other way around. Okay, I'm right here, guys. So let's see again. Okay, so there's a missing link in our application. It is moving us from signing up to it's taking us from sign up to let's investigate what's going on in our router, right? Let's be sure that our router is working the way it should. So we'll start from our main. So we have main, we have our store defined. Yeah, I think it's routing issue. So we have our store defined, our app. Okay. So we'll go to app. And then for app, we have our dispatch user. Okay. Then we have route, sign up route. The sign up route if user is available, navigate, login or sign up. Okay. Then for this, okay, should navigate to dashboard. Okay. For login. And for dashboard, so for dashboard user. Yeah. So navigate to, okay. All right. So if this is the case, then this should work. So we come to sign up. What happens in sign up? So for sign up, we have, of course, we are navigating. We're navigating to login, which is how it should be. Okay. So dispatch, sign up, email, password, of course. And then success, we want to navigate to login. So let me see that's the login route. What's the difference with this login route? Seems correct. Okay. Okay, so we say we should check the sign up action. So for sign up action, we have our sign up, create async talk. Okay, and our sign up async email. awaiting and yeah, creation. Okay. So basically, we're not having anything strange happening here. Now sign up. Okay, so for sign up, let's visualize what we have here. So for sign up pending state, we have loading, and then for we have this. Let me increment this. Version pending user. Rejected. Of course. Okay, let's test it out again. Log out. Okay. So the 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay. So we are good to go now. So we can now log in. And if I log in, it should take us to our dashboard screen. This login button is showing sign up. Why? Gosh. Yeah, I noticed that. But our action is not going through. Value was detected in the state in the path auth.user value. Firebase, take a look at the reducers handling this action type. Auth/set user. Okay. So auth/set user. And that's the error. Okay, so this login is not, the API call is not going through. So let's fix it. So we are dispatching. Okay, so let's go ahead. So for this, we are having a bug with our login. So let's figure out why our login action is not working. So we have this. All right, so this password set work. Let's dot user. Okay. Dot user. Yeah. Hold on. I'm with you guys. We need to be sure that everything is 100%. So we have our pending states. And for our pending states, we have loading. And then for fulfilled, so for fulfilled, we have succeeded, action or payload. Okay. And then we have field and we have action that, okay. All right. So why is it not making the API call and saying this shows payload user, standard user. Login. And it's thinking the same error. It's not actually triggering the API call. Hot set user. So for hot set user, payload, it works fine. It should work. Hello guys, hold on. I'm trying to debug why we're not logging in. Okay, set user. What is that? So set user. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to debug. I know this is the part that people might not like, but this is actually a necessary part of our okay. So let's go back to our slice and check for listener. And we're setting user to user. That's if user is available. So why am I having this error? Okay. It's possible that I did not save my code. Okay. All right, so I didn't save my code apparently. So let's log out again and try to log in. All right, let's sign up again and then test our application from scratch. Okay. Let's sign up. Okay. It is successfully. So let's sign in. And this should take us to our application. We're still not getting this done. Okay. So for the sake of time, we're going to have to debug this in another class. And this thing is so we need to know why it is not calling the API. Hold on, guys. I need to figure this out. Login. Dispatch course. Okay, I see the issue. So this dispatch was not called properly. Okay, so I think our code should function properly now. So if I do this, and click on submit, good. Should submit. Okay. So we are good to go. We can now test our logouts. Let me, yeah, the small things, right? Okay, so let me test our logout. If I click on logout, it should take us back to our login screen. All right. So we're able to debug it. We are good to go now. Everything is fine. Our Redux is working and our application is functioning as it should. Let us go through the process of creating and logging in again to see it in full function, right? So we come here and we add our email and password, and then we sign up, and it shows successful, and we get our login screen. We add our email and password, and we log in, and we're successfully logged in. Hooray! Now we can see that our user is logged in. We see the email is correct. Then we can click on logout to go back. So are we clear so far? Did everything make sense to you guys? Yeah. That's it's an input. It's warning actually, not more of an error, which can be fixed. So all you need to do is look at the error message and fix it, but we don't have time to consider that error at the moment. But our code works. Do you want to do that as your take home? Is it throwing the same error on your end? Faith. Okay, so submit yours. I'll check if it throws the same error. If it throws
That's
the
not
same,
what I'm saying, no.
I know. I like the idea of giving you guys tax every
That's
class.
not what I'm saying, no.
Why are you
I'm
running
saying
back?
that I'm not saying we should do it as take home.
Oh, God. Okay, all right. Okay, well, just go ahead and explore what we've done today. Check out the Redux documentation and then try to explore what we've done today. Replicate. When I say replicate, I don't say copy and paste. Replicate based on understanding. You can always watch the class again to get more clarity on what we're doing, right? That's why we did basic API calls, did context before doing Redux, so that at least you understand the concept of making basic API calls. Then you now see how context works. Then you now see how state management globally with advanced tools like Redux works, right? So yeah, we are behind time and we have to call it a day now. Thank you everyone for being here today. I appreciate thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the responses and questions. Faith, lovely question. Yeah, you guys should do your own work, like do your own work. Make sure that you are not just going back to sit. Get your hands dirty. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.